So then you have these learning gaps, and then the kids keep getting pushed forward, and they're still expected to learn on grade level curriculum as well as catching them up.
Right.
And so it's just this big game of catch up.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Daydreams podcast. Today, I am joined by Miss Selena. Today, we're going to be talking about the school system. And our guest today has actually had about 9 years worth of experience in the school system. So I'm extremely pleased and enthusiastic to have her on. I'm hoping to talk about some really hard-hitting topics that really dive deep into the school system, focusing on, is there an issue, focusing on what can we do to inspire change in the school system, and what can we do to better help our kids? So, Selena?
Hey guys, I'm Selena. Like Dylan was saying, I've taught 9 years. I taught pre-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID. I've been in elementary education, grades kindergarten through 4th grade. So I've seen a variety range of students in public schools. So there's a lot going on. Now, newly mother too. So I have my own child. And so kind of seeing what the school system has right now, as well as, having my own child and thinking about how that's going to impact things. Can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, and so why don't we just jump right in here? And there's a couple subjects that you and I kind of chatted before the stream on, just trying to hammer home some points that we feel strongly about. And so one of the first and foundational questions that I wanted to ask you is, do you think right now in 2026 that the school system fully supports our kids?
That one's a tricky question, just because from seeing how kids have been like pre-COVID, during and post, the population of kids that are in our public school systems now has drastically changed. Just from my experience in the public school education curriculum wise, it's still very much high level of rigor, and it's kind of stayed that way since pre-COVID, during and post. It's hard to say that it's considering the kids' developmental abilities now, because I feel like COVID really did have an impact on our kids, especially, during COVID and now.
Yeah, can you talk about that a little bit more? Because, I mean, for everybody that's watching, everybody knows COVID, but not everybody knows the impact that it's had on our kids. I think
so when COVID hit, I was actually teaching 3rd grade, and I remember when it hit, we went completely digital. So we swapped all the kids like online and digital learning. I know now like we have things called like digital learning days that are like implemented like once a month for public school kids. That wasn't a thing pre-COVID. So when we swapped everyone online, you're asking your kids to, have an attention span through a computer screen,
right,
versus like getting their attention in the classroom. So that was tough to begin with, like having that switch. And then, I have kids right now in kindergarten who were in pre-K and kindergarten times, like during the COVID year. And so their parents kept them at home for pre-K, and they didn't have like any of that social interaction. And so you're focusing a lot on, having those kids be socialized, and academics was kind of put on that back burner when they did enter the school system. So that kind of clashed that socialization with their curriculum, and curriculum still being the same level of rigor that we held them to. That made it hard. Yeah.
And how long were they digital learning before they started coming back to school?
They were digital learning, I want to say for the rest of that school year. So COVID hit like what month was that? Well, like March or
March, yeah, I think.
March time. So I think we did like April, May digital, and then the next school year we came back in person and we had like social distancing. I think we had like a staggered start to the beginning of the school year, where we had like, I think the first week of school, it was like kindergarten and 1st grade were the only kids there. Then the second week they like had 2nd and 3rd grade come in, and then they staggered like the start. They didn't have everyone come back at first. And then now we have, those digital days like once a month now, just because I think they enjoyed, having students use that technology piece, since it's something that I guess they're trying to be proactive about in case something ever happened again. The kids know how to do digital learning.
Yeah. Do you think that they do now? Or do you think that
Um,
there's still some challenges with it?
I think they do now. I think the kids nowadays are more technologically advanced
Right.
than they were before. Me being an elementary school teacher, I do think it is harder for the younger kids just because, you're asking them to have that stamina to be online and like do, you know, a video lecture and an assignment online.
Yeah.
It's tough to keep them engaged, especially like kindergarten through like first grade, second grade.
Right.
The third graders and up can probably do it, but I think it's a challenge in the beginning for early elementary.
So, I mean, are you having issues with discipline on digital learning days, or is it something that generally speaking? I know you mentioned the stamina aspect, but
Yeah.
are you having issues with kids staying focused the entire time through these digital means?
I think so. Some of them.
Yeah.
So you have like those kids that are, focused and they can do their work. Then you have the kids that are distracted because they're in their home setting, and so like
Right.
they're, you know, laying on their bed while they're doing their work, or they're like watching TV while they're doing their work. And then you have some of those kids whose parents are sitting right next to them, telling them the answer while they're like on their Zoom call.
Yeah.
So it's like it's hard to really, make sure the kids are doing their work independently without their parents like doing it for
Right.
them, and to make sure that they're able to focus, because it's different when you're like in person and virtual, especially
Yeah,
for the
that's
little
fair.
ones.
Well, I mean, speaking from experience, like I've worked from home most of my career, and I know how difficult it is for me, like a grown adult, to just sit there and have to do my own work sometimes, especially when I
Yeah.
have competing interests like video games or YouTube or
Mm-hmm.
TV, something else that's going to grab my attention, and this is a job that I'm getting paid for, so
Right.
you think that the motivation would be there, and of course it is, luckily, but I can't imagine what it's like to ask a kid to do digital learning at home when they've
Yeah.
got Fortnite, they've got Twitch, they've got video games, they've got TV, TikTok, whatever you want
Mm-hmm.
at your fingertips.
Yep. And I'll be honest, for the first couple of digital learning days for kindergarten, at least, we give them like packet work. And we're like, because we know ahead of time, like when we're having those digital days.
Yeah.
So we'll give them like a packet of work and we'll say, okay, like this is your work you're doing for digital days. And then we slowly phase them into like using Google Classroom, like towards the middle and end of the school year. Um, but yeah, no, it's definitely hard for them to navigate doing their work and that independent piece, especially like, I'm just drawing from my kindergarten experience for those kindergartners. Like you're asking a 5-year-old to sit and stay focused. It's definitely hard. And then like the level of rigor for our curriculum stays the same. With digital learning, like we're still expecting them to, write papers and keep up with the pacing, even while, having to do things digitally.
Well, that's a good point because we did before the podcast talk about the pacing at which school has stayed at post
Yeah.
COVID, and we've kind of kept this level of expectation post COVID for our standards.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about school readiness and kindergarteners coming to school prepared and having that readiness to be able to learn, or just the skills necessary to come into kindergarten, like being able to write your name or
Yeah.
use a pencil, or being able to, I don't know, identify something like maybe an
Right.
object. Can you talk a little bit about that, because what you were articulating to me was very interesting.
Yeah. So I've taught kindergarten for like 3 years now. So you can definitely tell the kids who have had some kind of preparation, like pre-K, or did some kind of, pre-kindergarten thing, whether it was like play to learn before kindergarten. You can tell those students who have had that exposure and the students who have not. Um,
And what is play to
Things
learn, real
like,
quick, before we get
so
into
play
it?
to learn, that's what Anya's in.
I know, but just for the
Oh,
audience.
yeah. Okay, okay, okay. So Play to Learn is kind of like a program, pre-kindergarten. It's for kids birth through 5. They can go in with their adult or their guardian, and they can do things that help them or prepare for kindergarten. So things like sensory things, motor skills, fine motor, gross motor. It just kind of is learning through play. And so it's kind of something you can also do in addition to pre-K before you go to kindergarten. So highly recommend to any parents who, want to do that and do it with their kids, birth through 5, which is great. Um, but these kids, when you come to kindergarten, we're expecting you to know how to write your first name, know like your ABCs, count to 10, be able to hold scissors and like cut in a straight line. And there are kids who just don't have those skills coming into kindergarten. And I think what a lot of parents don't realize is the curriculum in kindergarten is quite intense for what we ask them to do. We have them, writing stories in kindergarten, like writing full on sentences, which I don't think people realize that, we're expecting them to do all these things. And so when they come in not ready, us teachers have to like backtrack. So we spend like August and September backtracking, skills that are prerequisites to kindergarten, as well as trying to teach on pacing for what they need to have done within the kindergarten year. And so it's just a lot. And then it creates these gaps between, grade levels if they can't catch up in time. Um, and so I think if we could get parents to really be on board with what we expect of them in kindergarten before they come in, it would
Right.
be so helpful for the teachers to make sure that, we're not having to do that backtracking, and it kind of like sets them up to be more successful with the curriculum that we are expected to teach them.
Gotcha. And does that kind of describe, and correct me if I pronounce this word, is differentiation? Does that correctly
Yeah, you said
describe?
it
All
right.
right,
Yeah, yeah,
cool.
yeah. Differentiation. Yeah, so that's like a big term, we hear in education. Like in every course that you'll take, they talk about differentiation for like all teachers. And that word just means to be able to teach the curriculum and content to various learners to fit
Yeah.
their needs. And so, you have a classroom full of 20 some kids, you have some ESOL kids, some gifted kids, some students who, are academically, struggling a little bit. You have all these ranges of learners, and differentiation just means that the teacher adjusts the content to fit their learning style to make sure that they can be successful at the stage that they're at.
Yeah.
Um,
And that
and that,
sounds that
yeah, go ahead.
that sounds wonderful, right? In theory.
Yeah,
But
right.
when you have multiple kids that are not ready for school and you're asking them to
Mhm.
meet these criteria, it creates a significant challenge and roadblock for teachers if I'm,
Yeah.
thinking through this right. And not only that, but you guys are also having to do this not for one, not for 10, not for 20, but upwards of 30 students. You're having to gauge their performance level,
Yep.
and you're having to individualize each one of your generalized teachings to each one of these students.
Yeah.
And that, I can't,
Sounds intense, right?
that is very intense. And that
I
is,
know. I think people don't realize, I think people think that teachers just go in, they have a script, they read the script, they teach it, and then that's it. There's so much behind the scenes work that requires us to do that differentiation piece. And like, teachers don't have enough time in the day to do that because we're with our class, from the beginning of the day. I think the only break we have is like lunchtime if you have duty free lunch. And then our planning time when they're at specials, we usually have like team meetings during that time or professional development during that time. So the only time teachers have to sit and think about their class makeup and make those lessons geared for those specific groups is going to be after school or before school or on your weekends. And so the time and prep to do all of that differentiation, as good as it sounds, it's just a lot of extra time and preparation that you don't really see during a school day. It's behind the scenes work. And it's hard. It's definitely hard because you have high flyers in your room, and then the kids who struggle a little bit more, who need a little bit more support. And so you're trying to juggle different groups of kids as well as stay on the same pacing for the curriculum so you're not behind.
Yeah, I mean, what happens when you guys kind of miss a kid? You know, what happens if you can't meet a kid's expectations or meet them where they're at, like by the end of the
Yeah.
school year?
It happens. So that's where those learning gaps I think I mentioned to you before happens. Unfortunately, we have these gaps and so kids might go to like first grade, second grade, and they might be half a grade level to a grade level behind because they were performing, a little bit lower than the norm in their classroom and they were requiring more supports that by the time, the end of kindergarten reached, they weren't quite where they needed to be. Um, so then you have these learning gaps, and then the kids keep getting pushed forward, and they're still expected to learn on grade level curriculum as well as catching them up.
Right.
And so it's just this big game of catch up.
So, like you can have in fifth grade a kid that really hasn't learned fourth, third, or they could be learning at a,
Unfortunately, that happens. And hopefully, if you have the good teachers that have that student in their room, they're already putting in place supports for that kid.
yeah,
Things like IEPs and, those legal meetings where they have like support teachers come in and give them extra support, and they get put on a plan to help them. That's really, what they do. They kind of push the kids forward. There's
right.
not really so much, repeating a grade level unless really the parents ask or if
Mm.
the teacher truly sees it. But we really don't hold many kids back, especially in the elementary level, unless it's like super significant.
Yeah, and so you're talking about kids that have made it all the way to like fifth grade, but haven't really been able to perform at a fifth grade level. And
Yeah.
you also have that differentiation factor that you mentioned. So not only is a teacher at a fifth grade level trying to help a kid catch up to a fifth grade level, they're also trying to make sure that their class also meets that fifth grade level requirements. And
Right.
that seems like a
Yeah,
lot.
I know. And they do it during something called small group. They're really big on small groups in elementary school. So, like, you have a whole group lesson where you're teaching beyond grade level content. And then while they're doing like their independent work after their lesson, you pull like 4 or 5 kids to a table, which is called your small group. And that is where you do the differentiation. You go back and either, reteach something that they needed to learn, or you move faster and advance them in something else for like your gifted kids. So small group is where they want the differentiation to be, but again, like it's super hard when it's just one teacher versus 30 students. Like how
Yeah,
many
that's
how many
incredible.
kids can you actually reach every single day to differentiate? Like realistically, you're probably meeting what, maybe 2 groups a day out of your 30 kids. If each group is like 5 students, maybe 10 students a day. It's
Yeah.
hard to meet everyone every single day and make sure they get it all.
Well, one teacher to 30 students, I can
I
only
know.
imagine. I mean, and you're talking 30 elementary school kids that are full and
Yeah.
hyped up of energy. And I guess
Yeah.
that brings up another good point is have you been seeing like an increase in behavioral problems in the classroom?
I personally have, and
Yeah.
I don't know if, um, that is partly because of COVID or what
Yeah.
happened, but I've taught, like I mentioned before, grades kinder through fourth grade. And as the grades get older, I've noticed the behavior increasingly get a little bit more intense. So, kindergarten, they're still figuring it out. There's not too much behavior down there. But as they go to like second, third, and fourth, you see a lot more defiant behavior. Kids trying to get out of the work. So like they might act out because they don't want to do the assignment. And then, that kind of goes back to, if you have those learning gaps and you don't understand what's going on in the classroom because you're behind, you're going to want to get out of it. So behavior is kind of there for that reason. And then you also have, those students who do have like, um, things going on at home where the behavior just is because of something that is not necessarily school related, but, just home life.
Right. Have you seen an issue with social media in the classroom, like TikTok or?
Yeah.
Video games you
These
have?
kids know too much.
Really?
Yeah, they do.
And give me
I
one
think,
second. This Roomba just came
yeah.
on and it's very distracting. So
Okay,
I'll
you're
be right
fine.
back. We're going to edit this out. Give me one second. Why it decides to go on right now. Like, so,
I didn't hear it.
oh, good. Okay. So next
Yeah.
time if it comes on, I'll just make sure to leave it. It's just
Okay.
very distracting because it's like that
Yeah,
vacuum
I saw
sound.
you turn.
It's like,
Yeah. Yeah,
zzz.
I didn't hear it, but
Okay. Okay.
I could see that you were distracted.
Okay, good. um, and I'm sorry to anybody that's in the chat right now. I do not see the chat up on my screen, so I apologize if I can't get to any of the comments, but I can go back and rewatch the chat here in just a second. And I think my video just froze. So perfect. Again, be editing most of this out, so don't worry. But coming back to that one point that you were talking about, that TikTok, social media, like has that played a big role in your ability to teach? Like how's it distracted the kids and their ability to learn? Like, are you constantly having to tell kids like, hey, put that away, like, no, we can't have that, or they're coming in with some sort of weird trend or weird idea
Yeah. It's
that's
usually the trends. Like they'll
really,
come in like 6, 7 was like
oh
a big
no.
thing. Or like,
I teach
for
college
kids,
kids and they came
are
in
they
saying
doing it?
yes. Like
Yeah, kindergarten.
last semester I was like, yeah, we're gonna be, on campus from 6 to 7, and I swear the entire class was like
Six,
6, 7.
7.
I'm like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I'm like, I don't get it. But yeah, and then like a few years ago it was like skippity toilet. I don't know what
Oh
that is, but like the kids were on that.
yeah.
It's just like weird trends. Sometimes they might get some inappropriate things out of
Ooh,
social
yeah.
media and repeat things like, I don't know, like they would say like Ohio and gat, like all those words that just meant different things that I have no idea what they mean. Um,
Yeah, maybe I'm
but
showing my
usually it's
age
the
here.
trends. And then like I don't know about elementary school kids, but Minecraft is a big thing for them in elementary school. And you'll have kids like try to get on it on their Chromebooks, but like obviously, the county blocks certain things. Um, but yeah, they know a little bit too much when it comes to social media that they kind of start to think it's cool to do certain things, and then that's when the behavior kind of kicks in, and unfortunately sometimes bullying comes in through that because
Yeah.
they're learning things from online that they're saying to other kids. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you seen an increase in bullying?
um in the upper grades a little bit. The
Yeah.
lower grades, which is kind of why I kind of hang out with kindergartners because they're a little bit more innocent, but a little bit because, and it's not anything that's super like malicious, but they're just repeating things that they've heard or
Yeah.
seen. And you can tell that they're not, no one in kindergarten or, elementary school is like trying to meet someone on the playground and like pummel them or anything. But they're saying things more like verbally to each other that I don't think they fully understand the gravity of what they're saying is based on like social media and things that they've seen.
Gotcha. Well, it, that's
I know. It's tough. Public school it's definitely different from when we were in school.
yeah, it really is. And that's why I think, conversations like this, like I don't I don't have a kid in the public school system, but I will. And
Yeah.
so I think it's important for parents and individuals to know like what's going on in the school system and what's happening, especially with our teachers, especially
Yeah.
like the challenges you guys are facing, 1 to 30 students, and you're
Yep.
having to play catch up for students that are left behind, but not really left behind because they're moving on to the next grade, but they're
Uh-huh.
left behind skill wise. And you're having to play catch up to meet these things for
Right.
these kids at a 1 to 30 ratio is absolutely mind boggling. On top of that, you're having to deal with behavioral issues, like maybe some trends that
Mm-hmm.
kids are bringing into the classroom, some digital means, some social media.
Yep.
You're having to fight the constant stimulation of Minecraft. Like
Yeah.
that's a difficult challenge. And all to
I,
top it off, I mean, we did have, the federal government cut funding for the Department of Education.
yeah.
And go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying I wish parents I mean, everyone, everyone in the world kind of has this knowledge of like, oh, we don't pay our teachers enough, but there's not, I don't think enough people that are doing much about it. It's like we know about it, but like, what are we doing about it? Like,
Right.
how are we helping our teachers? Because, like you said, with the funding, like, I can't tell you how much of my own money is put into my classroom. We get maybe $100 at the beginning of the year to spend on our classroom.
For 1 year on 30
Um,
students?
yeah, like 100 or 200. I can't remember the exact number, but it's not a lot. You get it once in the beginning of the year. And you can they have stipulations on what you can use the money for.
That's
So
fair.
like it has to be things that the kids use, which makes
Yeah, that
sense.
makes sense.
Um, but $100 goes by real quick.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's not for a Title One school. That's just general public school, right?
I think so. I'm at a Title One school, so I can't remember about a non-title school what they give, but I think all teachers do get,
A
some
hundred
kind of
dollars.
money. Yeah. And the school kind of decides how to like divvy up the money. Um, but there's so many teachers and there's not enough funding. So I mean 100 per teacher each
Right.
year. Um, but yeah, no, it's a lot. And I think if parents knew, what they could do to help their kid, it would help our partnership with the school just a little bit better with the teachers and the parents, because I feel like some parents drop their kids off at school and think that we just fix everything and then they go back and they're good. But there's so much that they can do at home to help prepare them and like bridge that gap between us and, their home.
Yeah, and so actually, we'll get to that because I really want to talk about how can we inspire people to, make our schools better. Like, what can
Right.
we do to make our schools better? I think that that's a very important question that we need to answer. I do want to go back to this definition of like what a Title One school is versus non-Title One because we kind of brought
Yeah.
that up a little bit, and I think it's an
Right.
important distinction that a lot of people need to know and what it actually means for our schools and our kids.
Yeah, so Title One, these schools receive a little bit more funding, and it all to be qualified for Title One, it just kind of depends on the population of students you have in that school. So they take into account like poverty and most of it is like how many students qualify for like free and reduced lunch. And so if you reach a certain percentage of students in the school that qualify for that free reduced lunch, then your school's Title One. And if you are Title One, you get a little bit more funding than a non-title school. So they get more, funding for, Chromebooks, like that. Those schools might have one-to-one technology at their school, whereas a non-title school, they won't have all that funding for, one-to-one technology. Um, but then again, PTA is different. That's, fundraising. They get money through those means. It's just different. We just get a little bit more money for Title One schools based on your student population.
So here's an important distinction: is it easier to teach at a Title One school than a non-Title One school?
There's like pros and cons.
Okay.
So if you teach at a Title One, you get a little more funding, so you get a little bit better things. Um, but like PTA is kind of lower. And then again, this isn't for every school. There are some schools that are different. But from my experience, generally speaking, like PTA is like, parent involvement,
Yep.
um, family engagement. It's typically lower at a Title One school because, you have those families who, are working families. So they don't have the time to like kind of come into the school and like be a part of PTA and like do all these events and help out the school. So family engagement's a little bit lower at a Title One. Behavior is a little bit higher at a Title One,
Yeah.
but you get a little bit more funding. So like it's kind of pros and cons.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Now, to wrap it up, because I just got the notification that Zoom is going to cut us off in 10 minutes. So,
No,
yeah, I know. I'm kind of broke and I didn't pay for the
that's okay.
full license. But to kind of bring it all full circle, I did want to, wrap this up with like, how could people get involved and how could people help? Like
Yeah.
teachers, like, or help teachers, but parents or someone that maybe doesn't know how to get involved with the school system, is not exactly involved with the school system, but wants to help the best they can. Like help their
Yeah.
kids, help their community.
Well, parents definitely, look into, the curriculum that your school does. They have board of education meetings. Like they have meetings at the ISD if you're here in Gwinnett County where you can go and attend and you can listen to the board of education members talk about the curriculum so you know what's going on in the school and what they're expected to learn and be in the loop for that. You can even go and like advocate for your child and what you think should be changed in the school system. Like they listen to parents, but I don't think many parents know that they can actually go to those meetings and say things or petition things. Um, if you have kids in the school system, definitely do what you can to prepare them for that grade level. They have things like, play to learn,
Right.
pre-K, boot camps that they can do. You don't have to wait till the school year starts to get your kid involved in their education to help prepare them so there's not that many learning gaps. Just, be present, be involved, and help them out educationally with what you can. It doesn't have to be like you have to be an expert in education. You can simply, read a cookbook to them and make a recipe at home while you're cooking and just, help them with literacy that way,
Yeah.
like everyday life.
I mean, I think
And
that's really good parenting advice in general, just being
yeah,
involved with kids. And
just being involved because I feel like some parents don't know how to do it. Like, oh, I have to have a degree to be able to teach my kids this Common Core. Like, no, you don't. You can just simply, walk around the neighborhood and be like, oh, how many birds do you see? And count the birds with them. Like little things like that, are everyday things you can incorporate in their life. And then for your teachers, if they have an Amazon wish list, help us out because we need help with, just basic school supplies. Like the school, yes, they give us some things, but we're definitely not funded for everything that we need to help, for the whole school year for our 30 plus kids.
right.
So, communicate with your teachers, ask them what they need. We appreciate it because, it makes a world of a difference when you have parents who are involved, who care, um, and who, communicate with their teacher about, their child and what they need. And it just helps out. It makes a world of a difference.
Well, thank you, Selena. I really appreciate this conversation.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. And everybody, thank you for watching. Again, I'm sorry if I cannot see the chat or see your comments. I will make sure I get to those here shortly. So everybody, this has been Daydreams podcast with, oh, there it is. Oh no.